my question to you is, how did this process go about? How did you become a Chicago Sky player at this point?
Yeah, nice to meet you. And I kind of went through free agency in a very similar manner that I did my first time about two or 3 years ago. And a lot of it is just going with my agent, having a conversation about what are these meetings that we're going to take. What are my priorities in free agency in terms of what role do I want to play, in terms of comfort level in that aspect as well. And so I had grown a ton in my leadership in LA in my last season because we had a lot of younger players on our team. And so I wanted to continue to build on that, but also be in a place where, I'm still 28, so I've still got a lot of time in me. I've still got a lot of good basketball in me, and I wanted to be in a place where I could, fit really well in terms of my skill set, which is knocking down the three ball, being able to get out in transition, being able to defend. And Chicago was a great place for me once I went through all those kind of conversations with 4 or 5 different teams. It was pretty obvious that this was the best fit for me.
Hi, Kia. Carly Bell with Marquee Sports Network. Nice to meet you. You said that Chicago was a really great place for you, and they have their new head coach in Tyler Marsh. What was something about either Marsh's coaching style or his game plan that really was appealing for you in coming to Chicago?
Well, I think a big piece of it is that I'm currently here at Athletes Unlimited, and it's kind of like somebody's been coached by Ty. People have played against him, and it's easy to kind of just go and sit down and have a conversation and say, like, what did you think? And what are your highs, what are your lows? Like everything else that we do in life, we build pros and cons lists, right? And so it was really hard to find cons on Tyler. There's a lot of pros across the league from the people who have been able to. We have a lot of Vegas Aces players here, or some former ones now, I guess, who have been able to kind of just share some of their experiences with him. And I had the experience of playing alongside Tanisha Wright. I know she's on the as an assistant coach as well. So I've gotten that experience and knowing her too. And so I think a big piece of it with my conversations with Ty was that I was just really grateful to be able to just talk shop and talk basketball. And I know one of the things that I oftentimes rely on in my pro career is my basketball IQ and just trying to think the game, and to be able to have those conversations at a really high level. I really appreciated that. And knowing that there's an incredible talents pool for our younger players, and obviously Angel and Camila down in the post especially, that's like a shooter's dream because there's going to be so much attention down at the post. You want to space the floor out as much as possible for them. And if they double off of a shooter, then the shooter's open. If they don't double, then it's, a one-on-one easy layup. And so really appreciative of being able to have those conversations with him. And I think the style that he wants to implement will be really, really good.
Thanks, Carly. We'll go to Mike and then Alyssa. Mike, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Same New Year, same thing. But yeah, it's nice to meet you. It's Mike Hughes from Give Us a Shot Network. I just kind of wanted to talk to you about your relationship with Cameron Brink and how you're excited to play alongside another top 3 pick from last year in Camila Cardoso. Those are 2 players who obviously have been great in their first years, but 2 different play styles at their position. Like, what are you looking forward most to playing alongside Camila?
I mean, like I said, it's a shooter's dream to play with bigs that have the ability to score and pass and be able to kind of see the floor entirely. And I think just from the first year, I know she had to deal with a little bit of the injury that kind of threw her timing off a bit, but I love the way that she plays. I love the physicality that she plays with as somebody who thrives on being a very physical player. I appreciate that when people are willing to get in there and they're willing to bang. And I think that was one of the things that really stood out when we played, as LA played against Chicago last year, just the dominance of the posts in that battle. And so I'm looking really forward to seeing as she continues to grow. I know she's having a great season overseas right now as well. As she continues to grow within this league, I think she's got a great little kind of mid-range 15-footer in there as well. So, you balance that. It's difficult for a lot of people to defend. And hey, I'm here if you need me. I'm here and I'm spacing.
Thank you.
Go, Alyssa.
Hi, Kia. Alyssa Hirsch from The Next. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I've heard you mention the last couple of seasons have been difficult for you just recovering from the ACL injury. I'm curious if you could share a little more about what your recovery process has been like mentally and physically and where you feel like you're at right now.
Yeah, so everybody always kind of says that when you go through an injury like that, it's kind of a 2-year process. And as an athlete, you sit there and you're like, nah, like I'm not going to be the 2-year person. But at the end of the day, that's exactly what it kind of ended up being. And the first year back when I was in Seattle was more, you put on so much muscle to protect what got injured that all of a sudden your body's completely different. And so you're trying to move more muscle, which is obviously heavier and it's harder to get around. And then once I kind of figured that out, and subconsciously your brain starts to protect that aspect of your body. So I would watch film some days and I'd be like, why didn't I jump off of this foot? Why did I jump off of that one? And just subconsciously your body would start to do that just as a method of protection. And so the next year we started kind of repping things that I noticed I was doing subconsciously and repping it so that all of a sudden I would flip my brain wiring essentially. And so I felt better in my movements. I felt like I got my body back to the spot that I wanted it to be, and I could move with the extra muscle, but also just moving in a way that felt more comfortable. But then it's your mental side, right? You start to feel better, but then you're still kind of figuring out who you are on the court. And I think it was really when I figured out that I'm not going to be the person that I was prior to my knee, and I'm okay with that. And I'm going to be something better. I'm going to be better for myself, physically and mentally. That's where it's kind of flipped a switch. And so it's been really nice actually here at AU, because this was part of my off season that I really wanted to add in. Doing the Raptors broadcast is a massive part of what I do in the off season, but to do live 5-on-5 and have this opportunity, really grateful for my work family at home, TSN, for giving me 5 weeks to come here and do this. But I feel great. Like I feel like my body is exactly where I wanted it to be. I feel like I'm got a pep in my step. I'm bouncing. I'm, finding the game's coming back to me in a way that it's almost like not thinking about it. Like I'm scoring in different ways. I'm getting back cuts. I'm posting up smaller guards. I'm shooting the 3-ball pretty consistently right now. And I'm getting out in transition. And that was all kind of stuff that I was thinking about. And now it's all coming back to just being instinctual. So I feel very good right now. I'm not going to lie. I'm playing pretty well. I'm going to pat myself on the shoulder for that one.
We'll go Steven, then Julia.
What's going on, Kia? Steven Garner from CHGO Sports. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. So just in kind of watching your film, you're someone that really gets after it at the point of attack. It feels like defenses comprehensively are evolving over the last couple of years to take away space and things like that. As someone that's always defending at those points of attack, what do you feel is the most important skill for someone to be successful at the point of attack defending is?
You got to know who you're defending and what it is that they're really good at. And it's a catch-22 sometimes, because if you're not defending somebody, if you're defending someone who doesn't shoot the 3-ball that well, or doesn't shoot it well off the dribble, you might give them a step. But in our league, the problem is giving people a step gives them the advantage. So it's almost like you oftentimes want to close your gaps as much as possible and then try to dictate which way they can actually go on the floor without fouling. And so that's also very dependent on how the refs are calling the game that day. If they're actually calling the hand checks when you get up in there, then it's a little bit more difficult. So you personnel-wise have to understand it. I have to understand who I am as a defender too, right? Am I good at cutting off angles? Like defense at the end of the day is a lot of times energy and effort, but there's also really smart defenders, because we're not all built equal. We're not all super fast. We all can't change directions laterally as fast as one another. So can I play an angle? Do I know that this player likes to go left but wants to snake a ball screen back to get to a right hand? Then I can play that angle there, right? And so a lot of it is just being able to dictate what the other player is doing. Easier said than done, because the skill levels are so high now as we're continuing to play basketball. But I try to think of it, if I was on offense, how would I like to shoot the 3. So if you sit back on me, I'd rather just shoot it with your hand down. So you having to come out on me then gives me a step, and I know which way I want to go. I'm not going to say it out loud, but I know which way I want to go over the other way. And I'm hoping my defender forgets that as it's going on.
All right, thanks, Steven. We'll go Julia, and then Annie, and then follow-ups.
Hey, Kia. Julia Poe with the Chicago Tribune. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Wanted to ask a little bit kind of about what conversations you've had with Tyler about expected role coming into this team. Ball facilitation and 3-point shooting were kind of the two biggest weaknesses of this offense last year. So how do you feel like you fit into fixing those two weaknesses? And also, how do you feel like Tyler's scheme is going to be kind of approaching those two areas?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is going to be for me, at the end of the day, I come from a family of a lot of athletes. And one of the things that we have known a lot growing up, and my father has always told us, is you just got to go somewhere and take a job. No matter where you're going, you have to earn your opportunities and you have to earn your playing time. And that's the exact same way that I'm approaching heading into the Chicago Sky training camp. Knowing that last year I predominantly played the 2. I started the season at the 3, but I spent most of it at the 2, which was new for me because I'm usually a 3 in this league. And so I guess I'm pretty versatile there. I'll take that. I can play either position. And so depending on what they want to do in terms of, offense and positioning, that allows me to kind of swing both ways there. But I'm ultimately there to kind of help one with the leadership side of things. I like to hold people accountable, but I'm also pretty good at keeping things pretty light when they need to be light and serious when they need to be serious. And just having a balance there and being an outlet for people. I like to have one-on-one conversations with a lot of people, get to understand, what are the things that they respond to in terms of how do you help validate them? And then what are the things that they don't respond to in terms of, criticism or holding people accountable? Like what are the ways that they best respond to those things? And so leadership, floor spacing, obviously. And I'm really excited to play alongside Sluty as a point guard and my old point guard and Mo Jefferson at UConn as well, because I know that they like to get out in transition. And I love playing with super highly intelligent point guards because I play well using my basketball IQ, moving around them. And so, I'm excited for that from the guard position and space the floor, play some defense, guard whoever they want me to guard. I'm your utility person. I'll do what you need me to do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. We'll go back. Oh, we'll go with Annie and then we'll go back for one follow-up.
Hey, Kia, appreciate your time. Something you told me previously was that it was the honesty from Jeff that really sold you on the Sky. You liked his transparency and his honesty with you. I'm curious, like, what his sell was that really sold you, especially when considering, like, this was a team that did not succeed last year. They struggled a lot and there was a lot of transition coming into this new year. What about that seemed like a good thing to sign up for?
I mean, I'm used to transition. I've played on a ton of teams that have been in transitions at this point in my career. And for me, I think just knowing kind of what direction that this team wanted to head into and knowing that it's not necessarily an entirely rebuild at this point because you have had this last year under your belt. And in my opinion, from a player's perspective, on the outside looking in, obviously I was not in this organization last year and not in the locker rooms or behind the scenes, but I thought this team probably actually did better than I thought most people were going to think they were going to do. Like where they were in the standings, like they were hard to play against. They played hard. They were physical. They could score in a number of different ways. And so I think like a lot of the organizations that I've been a part of, there's been transitions in the front offices, in the players, in the coaching staff. And I mean, 7 teams this year are dealing with coaching staff transitions, right? And so it's kind of the norm that there was going to be a couple of teams at the top who I felt like probably weren't going to make a ton of changes. They were going to roll similarly with what they had last year. And then there was going to be tons of change across the league other than that. And that's exactly what happened. And so the change aspect of it didn't necessarily scare me a ton. I know a lot of the players that have previously been here from the vets in terms of like Mariah Jefferson, hung out a ton with Elizabeth Williams here at AU. I played with Beck Allen for 3 years in New York as well. And so just being able to kind of have a familiarity with them as well. It was just a good fit. And I know that Jeff appreciated my game and appreciated what I can bring to the table. And I think that was probably a big piece of it as well.
And just quickly, how much did them signing Sloot impact your interest? I know conversations were kind of crossing over there, so there was a lot of like you kind of hear who's talking to who, but once she officially signed here, I'm curious if that impacted your decision at all.
I mean, I was excited to have the opportunity to play with her for sure. Like I said, like point guards, highly intelligent, passing point guards are big for shooters. On time, on target, you put it in their pockets, pretty easy to get it off, right? And so, I love the fact that I can learn from vets. Like I'm still a kind of a baby vet. I call myself a baby vet, but I'm 8 years in at this point or 7, I don't even know. And so being able to kind of have and learn from that as well with Sloot is something that's really exciting for me because everybody that I know that's played with Sloot has had only great things to say about her.
Thank you.
Thanks, Annie. We'll go back to Carly and Alyssa. Really quick ones, guys. Really quick ones. Thanks.
Hey, Kia, just one more question. You spoke a lot about Camila and her just full-blown ferocity and physicality, down in the post. But when you look at Angel, who's more in like a forward position and is wanting to expand her shooting range, what is it about her game that you saw last year that you believe can have an impact this season, and how do you want to play a factor in her development this year?
I mean, I think sky's the limit for Angel as well. And if you look at it, ultimately, I love like her physicality as well. That was so difficult having both of them on the floor at the same time for when we were playing against them. And what I like is that she has the utmost confidence in herself. I can tell she's got a ton of confidence in her teammates as well from the way that she interacts with them. And so for me, even watching her now in this off season, I feel like there's already that development. You can see even more from her game and being able to expand it and kind of hit that mid-range a little bit more, at least take the mid-range even more. And so with Angel, I think there's so much potential for her, and I am here to be a soundboard if you need it. I'm here to be your biggest cheerleader if you need it. And in different ways, and maybe I could see something on the floor like, hey, just drop step right there. You know, they're going to come from the middle, take the baseline if you can. And so hoping that I can have a good relationship with her and just be able to give her different little pieces that might help make the game easier. But I can tell that she's a workhorse and she gets in the gym and she wants to be better and she wants to continue to be great in this league. And I think she has the potential to do that. So I'm excited to play alongside her for sure, because I'll take all of that hype and that confidence for my teammates.
Thank you.
We'll go Alyssa and then we'll end with Steven.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about your relationships with existing players, whether it's Mo or Becca, and what kind of conversations you had with them about coming to Chicago?
Yeah, honestly, I got to give a lot of credit to E-Will. She obviously we're here. So we've had dinner a couple of times and going through the free agency process. Sometimes you don't always want to ask everybody about their own personal experiences because each person has their own different kind of viewpoint on it. And I was like, you know what? No, I gotta figure out what's going on here. And she was great. And I really actually appreciated the fact that she kind of literally just told me, I'm old now, so I know how everything works in every system. I'm like, so what's this look like? What's this? How do they do this? Da, da, da. And she was like really honest with me. And there is literally no perfect situation in this league. If I would have asked any player from all 12 teams, there would have been something in there that I would have been like, well, that's interesting. And I didn't find too many that's interestings when he was talking to me. So I genuinely appreciated that aspect of it and being able to, come in here. And it's easier when you're transitioning from cities and teams when you do know some people and you've played with some people. And I think I signed maybe like 2 or 3 minutes after Beck's news came out. So we had texted each other. We were like, we're teammates again. So really excited to be back with Beck because I'm like partially Australian from my time that I played there. So I enjoy all of that.
Thanks, Alyssa. We'll end with Steven.
Hey, Kia, just one quick follow-up for you. So, of course, in your time with the Sparks with Kurt Miller, you had a lot of heavy and early nail help that was conceded. I'm curious with Tyler, you say you had conversations with him. What's been his desired, I guess, defensive identity for you all, and what's the role that he sees you playing within that?
We haven't had a ton of in-depth defensive conversations because, everybody loves offense, including myself. But I mean, what I can see, what I actually appreciated a lot of when I was in college, I had some big bigs behind me playing at UConn. And so you can, as a guard, put more pressure on the ball, knowing that there's people back there that are going to help deter and give you some opportunities to get back into the paint. And I could see that being something similar that you can do here in Chicago. And obviously having bigs that are mobile, having bigs that can kind of change up some of those. We don't got to sit in drops with these bigs, right? They can get out and they can hedge once or twice. They can trap once or twice. And Tyler, from what I've heard, is really, really good tactically X's and O's. And so I expect that to be very similar. And I know playing with Tanisha Wright, like Tanisha Wright's defense, oof, we had to play against it in practice every day, right? And so she was a tenacious defender. And so I can see that still in the coaching staff, that defense is going to be that main thing so that we can get out and transition because we've got such dynamic players that can run the floor.
Appreciate you.